Roma, and it's Italy who are the champions of Europe.
What's behind England's golden generation fail? National teams, unlike football clubs, can't just buy players. They have to work with the talent they've got. Sometimes, a single world-class player can be in a team. When fortune smiles on a country, you could have multiple world-class players in a team. And this team is known as the golden generation. But what happens when a country has 11 world-class players across 2 different decades and still doesn't win a single trophy? This is the story of England's golden generations. 1966 was the year England conquered the football world. The World Cup was at Wembley. The fans were buzzing. And England, led by Sir Alf Ramsey, were on a mission. The final against West Germany was nothing short of legendary. Geoff Hurst became the hero with a hat-trick and that controversial goal. In the end, England triumphed 4-2 and the nation rejoiced. It was a moment of pure football glory that had everyone believing this was just the beginning. Little did they know, they'd be waiting a while for the next one. After that glorious summer of 1966, England fans were ready for a lifetime of trophies, champagne, and football's coming home chants. But what did they get instead? Heartbreak. Lots of it. It's like England became the kings of finding new ways to disappoint their fans. Take the 1970 World Cup for example. England, still reigning champs, faced West Germany in the quarter-finals. They were cruising with a 2-0 lead, but in true England fashion, they somehow lost 3-2. Yet, from winners to what just happened in 90 minutes. Then came the 1982 World Cup. England made it past the group stage, only to get stuck in a second group stage, because why make things easy? And guess what? They didn't make it past that either. And who could forget the 1990 World Cup? The semi-finals against West Germany. Again, England fought valiantly, but fell to the ultimate nemesis, penalties. Yep, the dreaded shootout that would haunt them for years to come. The 1990s didn't get much better. Euro 96 was supposed to be the tournament. It was on home soil after all. England reached the semi-finals and once again faced Germany. And once again, penalties. And yes, once again, England lost. And one of the penalties was missed by Gareth Southgate. By the time the 1998 World Cup rolled around, hopes were high again. David Beckham, who would become a national hero and villain, got a red card in the round of 16 against Argentina, which saw England crash out on, you guessed it, penalties. If you're keeping track, that's 3 major tournaments in the 90s and 3 penalty heartbreaks. So, by the end of the 90s, England fans were used to disappointment.
Spain, the glory.
But they still held on to hope. The next decade was supposed to be different. A new wave of talent was emerging, and the phrase golden generation started to make the rounds. But as we'll see, that generation didn't exactly turn the tide. The first golden generation. It finally seemed like the football gods were smiling at England. They now had a collection of world-class players like David Beckham, Rio Ferdinand, Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard and Paul Scholes, who they could call their golden generation.
Has gone to the left. Beckham!
Each of these players was a Premier League star in their respective teams, and their football future looked as bright as David Beckham's bleached blonde hair. They were called the England Golden Generation and were supposed to break the curse. They were seen as the generation of players that would finally bring football home and do what no other England team has done since 1966. The Golden Generation began in the 2000s, and their first tournament was the 2002 World Cup. England looked solid, especially after beating Argentina in the group stage, with Beckham's redemption penalty after his red card in 1998. They went on to beat Denmark 3-0 in the round of 16, but just as fans were getting their hopes up, their next match was against Brazil. England took the lead with Michael Owen's goal, but then Ronaldinho decided to lob David Seaman from about 40 yards out, and that was what they needed. Brazil won 2-1, and England was sent packing in the quarter-finals.
It was a surprise to everybody because you don't take him off 10 minutes to go when you need a goal.
I think our players are young enough to learn from that, and we'll come back and I think we'll be stronger for it.
Did Ian Wright just say they would come back stronger? Well, everyone expected that they would become better, as they had a lot of young players. This was not the case. Next up was Euro 2004, and this time, the hype train was in full swing, especially with Rooney lighting up the tournament. He was unstoppable, until he got injured. England faced Portugal in the quarter-finals, and of course, it went to penalties. And you know how that story ends. England lost, with Beckham famously sending his penalty into orbit. And then the 2006 World Cup. This was supposed to be the golden generation's moment, but once again, it was Portugal in the quarter-finals, and once again it went to penalties. By this point, it was like watching a rerun of your least favourite movie. The heartbreak reached new levels when Rooney got sent off, and the inevitable penalty shootout defeat followed.
I told you they were going to score, and Portugal won because they're the best! Everything, fantastic.
So, what went wrong with the golden generation, and why didn't they win any trophies? Most might say that they were just unlucky, and while most might say that they could not win because of the golden curse, where teams with that label just never live up to the hype. But when you break it down, it comes down to 3 key reasons. The first was the huge amount of pressure put on them by the media.
England as a nation put too much pressure on them because it was doing so well in domestic competitions, winning Champions League, winning Premier League. When they expected them to do that at international, they put too much pressure on them. And
the English press can be relentless, and during the golden generation era, the pressure from the media was off the charts. Every move these players made, both on and off the pitch, was scrutinised, and it also did not help that the wives and girlfriends of the players were showing out during those periods. The golden generation was loaded with stars from Manchester United, Liverpool and Chelsea, clubs that hated each other's guts. These guys were so competitive, they couldn't put their rivalries aside, even when playing for England.
It was down to, really, from my perspective, and Frank will give you his after, but the obsession with winning. I didn't want to see Frank have an edge on me. I didn't want to speak to him about anything that he might be able to take away and use to facilitate his team winning, etc. And it just became an unwritten kind of conduct, really. And it was the same with Stevie. When I was with England, Stevie, when we was battling for them for the Premier League.
One of the biggest problems was that England had so much talent, they didn't know how to use it. The team was like a puzzle, with too many pieces, and not all of them fit. Instead of building a balanced squad, the coaches tried to squeeze in all the big names, even if it meant players were out of position or couldn't play to their strengths. Like playing Gerrard and Lampard in the same midfield. Great on paper, but it never really worked out on the pitch. It was a decade of what could have been, but as one era faded, another was on the horizon. A new generation of stars was ready to take up the challenge and hopefully break the curse. The new golden generation, 2020s. After so many years of disappointment following the last golden generation, it seems like the football gods have blessed England with another set of golden generations. Players like Bukayo Saka, Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Kobbie Mainoo, and seasoned pros like Harry Kane and Sterling are all in this team, and it feels like a new revolution is about to begin. Euro 2020 marked the beginning of this new golden generation of England. England stormed through the tournament, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they reached the final of a major competition. The streets were buzzing, the pubs were packed, and football's coming home was on a loop. But then, Italy happened. They were so close, and being so close should have dampened their spirit, but that was not the case.
It's saved by Donnarumma!
The 2022 World Cup came. The squad was even more mature, with players like Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice stepping up as midfield maestros, and the defence led by Harry Maguire and John Stones, looking rock solid. England sailed through the group stages and knocked out some heavyweights like Wales and Senegal along the way. The belief was back, and it wasn't just the fans who felt it, the players did too. But then France happened in the quarter-final stage. Dreams were dashed, but unlike in previous years, it was a sense of pride in how they played, a feeling that they were just one step away from greatness. Even Harry Kane made this statement. Oh, surely now, the next tournament was going to be theirs. The anticipation was high, the team was even more cohesive, and the experience of past tournaments had seasoned them like fine wine. England looked like the real deal, but once again, football gods had other plans. They made it to the final after beating Netherlands, Switzerland, and Slovakia, where they faced a resurgent Spain. It was another epic encounter, but in the end, Spain's flair and clinical finishing won, and England was out. But this time, the narrative was different. They weren't just nearly men, they were contenders, inching ever closer to that elusive trophy. It was like a replay of 3 years ago. Even Gary Neville agreed.
We've been here before, obviously 3 years ago where we lost the final, and those lads have been here before, but I suspect this will be a crushing defeat for them, crushing defeat for the manager as well, but also for the fans, because there was that hope that because of obviously the tournament, the way in which it had gone, and
So after reaching 2 finals and a quarter-final, why hasn't England lifted a trophy? Is it the team, or just plain bad luck? One thing's for sure, England need a change at the top. Gareth Southgate has stepped down as head coach, and while he brought the team closer to glory than any manager in recent years, his tactics have started to feel outdated. You see, before Gareth Southgate took the reins of the senior team, he managed England's under-21 squad, where he developed close relationships with emerging talents like Sancho, Foden, and Saka. This fostered a sense of unity among the players, something the previous golden generation lacked. His promotion to the senior team was seen as a natural step forward. However, his strategy of sitting back and defending after scoring hasn't been as effective as hoped. While the closeness within the squad has been a strength, his conservative tactics have often left fans and pundits questioning if they're holding the team back from reaching their full potential. What do you think? Was Gareth Southgate truly wasting England's golden age? And with new stars like Eze, Wharton and Mainu joining the ranks of this already talented generation, could they finally bring home the success England has been craving? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out the channel for more videos.